All right. Good morning, New Life. Yeah, I had the chance to take Word Life Bible study class this semester, and I'm just here to share my testimony about it. At the beginning of this school year, I had the privilege of watching my favorite movies, The Lord of the Rings, with my friends. It's an epic journey of light versus darkness, righteousness versus wickedness, and humble heroes conquering insurmountable challenges. Watching The Lord of the Rings never fails to put a smile on my face and tears in my eyes. After watching the film, one of my friends sent me an article challenging us to view the Bible the same way we look at the story of The Lord of the Rings. Now, the Bible doesn't have quests with hobbits or orcs or monsters, but what it offers is even better. It's a story of creation, temptation, failure, redemption, and eternal hope spanning multiple millennia. And the most exciting part, we get to be a part of that story. The same God found in these scriptures, the same God who split the Red Sea, the God who can move the mountains of the earth, he's the same God moving the mountains of our hearts each and every day. Now, like many of you, reading the Bible was a daunting challenge to me before I took Word Life, especially reading the Old Testament. It was difficult for me to make sense of the stories that I read, with characters trusting and disobeying God, wandering in the desert, and a whole host of wicked kings and leaders. What does this have to do with me today? How can I apply these stories of old to my current problems? So, with that in mind, I went into Word Life with the hopes of answering these questions and learning how to intentionally and thoughtfully read the Bible. One of the main points that Ms. Lynette and the class itself emphasizes is how the Bible is one unified story, all pointing to Jesus. And in turn, it provides practical knowledge for application in our lives. These connections were discussed through hyperlinks, which are parallels in theme, story structure, and language that are found all throughout both the Old and the New Testaments, interweaving the Bible into one beautiful mosaic, a love note to us from God. These hyperlinks help us to understand the story of the Bible and how God is fulfilling his promise of redemption for all people. Throughout much of the Old Testament, many prophets speak about how God will use the line of Abraham, and eventually David, to restore his kingdom on earth. He foretells of a coming king who would liberate the people, freeing them from the powers of this dark world. Now, this Messiah eventually became misconstrued by the Jewish people to be a conqueror or a warrior, someone who would arrive to overthrow the current powers and bring political strength to the kingdom of Israel. But God had something different in mind. See, one thing I've learned throughout this class and throughout reading the Bible is that God flips the narrative. He's not willing to let us settle for our ideas of good. No, his plans are better. And so Jesus comes to the earth to fulfill the prophecies written before him, not with a crown of gold on his head, but wearing a crown of thorns. And he comes not to liberate the people from the power of the Romans, but to liberate our hearts from the powers of sin. See, now this makes reading the Bible exciting. Once you can see Jesus as the payoff, the fulfillment for the Israelites' journey through the Old Testament, you can see the hand of God has been working intricately behind the scenes the whole time. And you see how God chooses broken, imperfect, ordinary people like you and me to bring his perfect plan into fruition. Can't you see what's happening here? There are reflections of us baked into the stories of the Bible, and these characters' relationships with God are a mirror for us to learn about what he's doing in our lives today. Suddenly, the Bible isn't a book of old stories. It's a living, breathing text through which God is speaking to us powerfully. And so the question becomes, how do we apply this? Well, Word Life taught us that too, and he did it in multiple ways, one of them being scripture memory. Miss Lynette had us memorize 18 verses of the first chapter of John, or she wanted us to do more, but we kind of capped out at 18. And while this seemed odd to me at first, I realized that this was practice showing us the importance of having the law written on our hearts, on our lips, and in our minds. And this comes directly from the book of Deuteronomy, which commands the Israelites to not only remember the law, but to teach their children the law as well, so they may follow God diligently. Additionally, in the class, we spent time getting to share with each other about our lives and about what God has done in our family lineage. Meeting with my wonderful prayer partner, Derek, who we heard from last week, made me appreciate how God works through families and the importance of spiritual heritage. All the class members also had a chance to come together and share about their journeys through faith. And this encouraged me because I got to spend time with people who weren't college students, seeing how they were walking with God in different stages of their life. Overall, taking Word Life opened my eyes to the multiple facets of reading and analyzing the Bible, including its memorization and daily application. And I would highly recommend that you take it. Even more so, however, whether or not you get the chance to take Word Life, I sincerely hope that you can make an effort to read the Bible. I hope you get lost in the story, swept up in the depiction of God's love, amazed by his faithfulness despite generations of rebellion, encouraged by his provision of hope for the future, and awestruck at his subversion of all expectations through Jesus. You just may find that this is a book like no other, even more epic and personal than The Lord of the Rings. And that's because it's a book that places God at the center of the narrative and invites you to be a part of the story. Thank you.